Breaking. Urgent. This is a confirmed escalation with global consequences, and what you are about to hear is not distant politics or abstract war talk. This is a critical update that could directly affect visas, travel plans, immigration cases, careers, families, and years of effort built across borders. Something has shifted in the relationship between the United States and Iran, and ignoring this moment could leave people unprepared when governments move fast, quietly, and without warning. When world powers exchange words like criminal, when military warnings are issued publicly, and when retaliation is openly discussed, history shows that the consequences rarely stay confined to speeches. They spill into airports, embassies, border checkpoints, visa processing centers, and immigration systems worldwide. This is why this update matters right now. Welcome to Real Guide News. This channel exists for moments exactly like this, when global war developments intersect with United States immigration policy, travel rules, and government decision-making. Real Guide News is built to help you stay informed, prepared, and protected in times when global instability changes lives not with announcements, but with sudden delays, denials, security reviews, and closed doors. During international conflicts, governments rarely wait for public panic before acting. They adjust procedures quietly, tighten controls silently, and enforce policies strictly, often before the public fully understands what is happening. That is why staying ahead of these developments is no longer optional. The situation we are examining today centers on a sharp rise in Iran-United States tensions after Iran's supreme leadership publicly labeled former U.S. President Donald Trump a criminal, prompting an immediate and defiant response from Trump himself. While words alone do not start wars, history proves that public accusations between adversarial powers rarely occur in isolation. They are signals, messages aimed at domestic audiences, allies, adversaries, and military planners. When those words are layered onto years of sanctions, proxy conflicts, intelligence operations, and military standoffs, they form a pattern that defense and policy analysts take very seriously. To understand why this moment is dangerous, we need to step back and understand how Iran-United States tensions reached this stage. For decades, relations between Washington and Tehran have been defined by distrust, sanctions, nuclear disputes, and regional competition. The United States views Iran as a destabilizing force in the Middle East, accusing it of supporting armed groups across the region and pursuing nuclear capabilities that could threaten global security. Iran, on the other hand, frames the United States as an aggressor that interferes in its sovereignty, imposes crippling economic sanctions, and backs regional rivals. This mutual hostility hardened dramatically after the U.S. withdrawal from the Iran nuclear agreement and intensified further with targeted strikes and sanctions. One of the most pivotal moments in this rivalry was the U.S. killing of a top Iranian military commander several years ago. That event did not trigger full-scale war, but it fundamentally changed the tone of the conflict. Iran vowed long-term revenge, not necessarily immediate retaliation, and analysts warned that the conflict had entered a prolonged phase of indirect warfare. Since then, both sides have engaged in a cycle of pressure, warnings, cyber activity, proxy attacks, and strategic signaling. The absence of open war has not meant peace. It has meant a fragile balance where miscalculation could ignite something far larger. The recent exchange of words, where Iran's leadership publicly called Donald Trump a criminal and Trump responded sharply, must be viewed within this long arc of unresolved hostility. According to official government statements and public remarks, Iran continues to frame past U.S. actions as illegal and morally unjustified. Trump's response, defiant and dismissive, reinforced the reality that political leadership changes do not automatically erase geopolitical conflict. Defense analysts warn that such public confrontations increase pressure on military and security institutions to demonstrate strength, especially in regions already crowded with armed forces and sensitive infrastructure. Military warnings often follow rhetoric. When leaders speak publicly, armed forces quietly adjust readiness levels. Naval deployments are repositioned. Intelligence monitoring intensifies. Air defense systems are tested. Allies are briefed. This is not speculation. Based on historical war responses, this pattern repeats consistently. Even without a declared war, the risk of confrontation rises when communication channels are strained and mutual distrust dominates decision-making. What could realistically trigger a full war between Iran and the United States? Analysts point to several scenarios. A direct attack on U.S. personnel or facilities in the Middle East could provoke immediate retaliation. A major strike on Iranian nuclear infrastructure could escalate into open conflict. Miscalculation at sea, especially in the Persian Gulf, where U.S. naval forces and Iranian units operate in close proximity, could spiral quickly. Even proxy actions by armed groups aligned with Iran could draw the United States into broader military engagement. Modern warfare does not always begin with declarations. It often starts with one incident that removes political restraint. The role of allies and regional powers cannot be ignored. Iran does not operate in isolation. Its relationships with armed groups across the Middle East mean that any conflict could spread beyond two countries. Likewise, the United States has defense commitments and partnerships with multiple regional allies. Defense and policy analysts warn that a localized clash could evolve into a regional conflict involving airspace restrictions, maritime security operations, and coordinated military responses. Global energy markets, shipping routes, and international diplomacy would feel the shock almost immediately. Modern warfare would not resemble past ground invasions alone. Cyber operations, economic warfare, sanctions enforcement, surveillance, and targeted strikes would likely dominate the early phases. Civilian infrastructure, digital systems, and transportation networks could be affected indirectly. And this is where immigration and travel consequences begin to emerge clearly. Historically, global conflicts lead governments to tighten borders. Immigration agencies have previously responded to war by increasing security screening, slowing visa processing, and reassessing travel permissions. After major international crises, background checks become more extensive, interviews more detailed, and approvals more cautious. This is not punishment, it is a security reflex. Governments prioritize risk reduction during uncertainty, even when that uncertainty has not yet turned into open war. If Iran-United States tensions continue to escalate, U.S. visa processing could be affected in several ways. Applicants from regions deemed sensitive may face longer administrative processing. Security clearances could take months instead of weeks. Embassies may operate with reduced staffing or limited appointment availability due to security concerns. International students, workers, and family-based applicants could see delays without clear explanations. Historically, these slowdowns occur quietly, with little public notice. International travel could also be impacted. Airlines may adjust routes to avoid certain airspaces. Travelers may face enhanced questioning at ports of entry. Border officers may receive updated guidance on screening procedures. Even individuals with valid visas or permanent residency have, in past conflicts, experienced secondary inspections and extended questioning. This does not mean automatic denial, but it does mean uncertainty and stress. Embassy operations are particularly vulnerable during periods of rising tension. If security risks increase, diplomatic missions may reduce services, suspend routine visa processing, or temporarily close. Past conflicts show that once embassies scale back, the backlog created can take months or even years to resolve. Families waiting for reunification, professionals planning career moves, and students preparing for academic terms can find their plans disrupted with little warning. Why do governments tighten controls during conflict? The answer lies in risk management. During war or near-war conditions, intelligence agencies prioritize threat detection. Immigration systems become part of that security architecture. This does not imply that immigrants or travelers are threats, but that systems are designed to minimize unknown variables. Unfortunately, this often means slower decisions and stricter scrutiny for everyone. Who may be affected directly by this situation? Immigration applicants from the Middle East may face the most immediate impact, but history shows that effects rarely remain limited to one region. Global security alerts can influence policies worldwide. Visa holders traveling internationally could encounter unexpected delays. International students may face additional documentation requirements. Work permit holders may experience processing slowdowns when renewing or changing status. Families waiting for interviews could see appointments postponed. Even those who believe they are unaffected should pay attention. Global conflicts often lead to policy behavior changes that ripple outward. Economic uncertainty can influence employment-based immigration. Political pressure can reshape refugee policies. Travel advisories can alter airline operations. Border entry procedures can change overnight. Why does this situation matter right now? Because escalation risk is increasing, not decreasing. Public rhetoric has hardened. Diplomatic language has sharpened. Military postures are under scrutiny. When these factors align, reaction time shrinks. Historically, once a conflict crosses a certain threshold, policy changes move faster than individuals can adapt. Those who are informed early have options. Those who are not often find themselves reacting too late. There are mistakes people repeatedly make during periods like this. One common error is assuming that existing visas or approvals guarantee smooth travel. Another is delaying applications, believing that tensions will ease before they submit. Past conflicts show that waiting can lead to missed windows, increased scrutiny, or prolonged delays. Some people ignore early warning signs, only to discover later that embassies have reduced services or that security policies have changed. What could happen if this update is ignored? Travel plans could be disrupted at the last minute. Immigration cases could face unexpected delays. Families could remain separated longer than anticipated. Careers could be put on hold. These outcomes are not hypothetical. They are documented patterns from previous international crises. At the same time, it is important to remain responsible and realistic. Not every escalation leads to full war. Policies can change rapidly, but they can also stabilize. This is why informed vigilance matters more than panic. Understanding the risks allows individuals to plan, document, and prepare rather than react emotionally. Defense and policy analysts consistently emphasize that modern conflicts unfold in stages. The early stage is information, rhetoric, and positioning. The next stage involves limited actions and policy adjustments. By the time the public recognizes the full scope, systems are already in motion. Immigration systems are no exception. As tensions rise, governments may increase coordination between defense and immigration agencies. Data sharing may expand. Screening criteria may evolve. Processing times may lengthen. These changes often occur without public announcements, implemented through internal guidance and procedural updates. For international students, this could mean additional administrative processing before visas are issued. For workers, it could mean delays in employer-sponsored petitions. For families, it could mean postponed interviews or requests for additional documentation. For travelers, it could mean longer inspections at airports and borders. It is also important to understand the psychological impact of war tensions on policy decision-makers. During uncertainty, risk tolerance drops. Officials become more cautious. Approval rates may decline temporarily. Requests for evidence may increase. These shifts are not permanent, but they can define outcomes during critical periods. The global nature of modern travel means that even those far from the Middle East could be affected. Airline route changes can increase travel times. Transit visas may become more complicated. Insurance policies may adjust. These secondary effects compound the stress faced by individuals navigating immigration systems. Throughout history, those who monitored early warning signs fared better. Awareness allowed them to submit applications earlier, avoid risky travel periods, and prepare documentation proactively. This is not about fear. It is about preparedness. As this situation develops, staying informed through reliable sources is essential. Rumors spread quickly during international crises, but policies are shaped by official decisions. According to official government statements, authorities respond to perceived threats with procedural caution. Based on historical war responses, this caution almost always touches immigration and travel. We are now in a phase where rhetoric has intensified and the margin for error has narrowed. That does not mean war is inevitable, but it does mean that the environment is less forgiving of delays and assumptions. This is why Real Guide News exists, to connect global events to practical consequences before they arrive at your doorstep. History may be unfolding in real time. Moments like this are often recognized only in hindsight, when people look back and say the signs were there. Staying informed is no longer optional. It is a form of protection. Awareness gives you time. Time gives you choices. As we move forward, pay attention to official updates, embassy notices, and travel advisories. Avoid unnecessary travel to sensitive regions if possible. Keep documentation current. Consult reliable sources. And most importantly, do not assume that global events do not affect personal plans. If this video helped you understand why rising Iran-United States tensions matter beyond headlines, support Real Guide News by liking this video. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you receive critical updates as they happen, not after policies change. Share this video with family, friends, and colleagues who may be planning travel or navigating immigration systems. Use the comments to discuss concerns and experiences, because informed communities are stronger and more prepared. Subscribing to Real Guide News is not about entertainment. It is about preparedness in an increasingly unpredictable world. Stay informed, stay alert, and stay ahead.